Their door creaked open, not with the confident slam of triumph, but with the hesitant whisper of a ghost returning to a house that no longer recognized its own shadow. I stood on the threshold of my childhood home, the weight of a decade pressing down on my shoulders like the dense, humid air of the jungle I'd spent years studying. The scent of my mother's mothballs and my father's stale-piped tobacco hung thick in the hallway, a tangible reminder of the world I'd fled. But it wasn't just the smell that hit me, it was the silence. The silence of a family that had once roared with derision, now holding its breath, waiting to see if the ridiculous dream I'd chased, the one they'd called a waste of talent, a betrayal of our lineage, had finally crumbled into dust. I'd left this place a broken woman, my heart shattered by the theft of my life's work, my reputation smeared across the pages of journals like a stain no amount of scrubbing could erase. They'd seen me as the ambitious fool chasing flowers and lotions while the real world demanded serious science. Frivolous, they'd spat. A joke, my father's voice, always the loudest, echoed in my mind. You're disgracing us, girl. You'll end up selling soap in a dingy shop, begging for scraps of respect. My mother, her eyes filled with a pity that cut deeper than any insult, had whispered, perhaps it's time to find a proper husband, someone who understands the value of a stable career. The laughter of my younger brother, now a successful lawyer, still rang in my ears, a cruel, mocking soundtrack to my humiliation. But I hadn't crumbled, I hadn't sold soap, I'd built something far more potent. Years of exile had forged me into something unrecognizable to them. I'd taken the stolen research, the discarded plants, the whispers of ridicule, and turned them into a revolution. My company, Verdant Bloom-not, wasn't just selling skincare, it was rebuilding ecosystems. I'd taken barren, poisoned lands, the very scars of industrial greed, and transformed them into thriving, biodiverse sanctuaries. I'd proven the naysayers wrong not with words but with living, breathing proof. Lush forests where once there was desert, rivers cleansed by the very plants I'd championed. I'd become a legend in the environmental world, a pioneer whose work was now taught in universities, whose name was synonymous with sustainable healing. I'd won awards, changed policies, and built a legacy that made my father's law firm look like a footnote. Now standing there, I wasn't the broken botanist, I was the architect of rebirth. My hands, once trembling with the weight of betrayal, were now calloused from planting seeds and negotiating deals. My eyes, once clouded by despair, held the clear, fierce light of conviction. I wore a simple linen dress, practical and unadorned, a stark contrast to the tailored suits of my brother's world. I carried nothing but a small leather-bound notebook, a testament to the meticulous research that had fueled my journey. The silence stretched thick and heavy. My father shuffled into the living room, his posture rigid, his eyes fixed on the worn rug. Well, he rumbled, the voice I'd feared, look at you, still chasing flowers, I suppose. Did the world finally run out of fools? His words were barbed, but they lacked their former venom. They were brittle like old bones. I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. I simply walked further into the room, my steps measured, deliberate. I placed the notebook gently on the coffee table, the cover embossed with the logo of Verdant Bloom-not. Then I turned to face them all, my mother, her face a mask of confusion and dawning horror, my brother, his smug expression faltering, my father, his jaw clenched. This, I said, my voice low, steady, carrying an unexpected weight. This is what I built, not soap, not a joke. This is the legacy you told me I'd never have. This is the proof that the frivolous dream you mocked was the only one worth pursuing. This is the redemption you denied me. I opened the notebook. Pages fluttered out, not like paper but like the wings of 1,000 butterflies. Each page was a photograph, a map, a chart, the undeniable evidence of my work. There was the desolate mine site, now a vibrant wetland teeming with life. There was the barren hillside, now a terraced garden bursting with medicinal plants. There was the lab report, the patent filings, the contracts with governments and NGOs. There was the soil analysis showing the transformation from toxic wasteland to fertile ground. And there, in the corner, was a photograph of my father years ago, standing on that same poisoned hillside, shaking his head, calling my work a waste. The silence shattered. My mother gasped, a sound torn from her throat. My brother's eyes widened, his smugness replaced by a dawning, horrified comprehension. My father's face, a canvas of shifting emotions, anger, shame, disbelief, finally settled into a profound, crushing regret. He looked at the photographs, then at me, then back at the images of his own past scorn. The words he'd hurled at me, the dismissal of my worth, the declaration that I was an embarrassment, they were laid bare not as abstract insults, but as the catalyst for the very destruction he'd feared. Look at what you made me do, I whispered, the words thick with years of suppressed pain and hard-won triumph. You called it a joke, you called it frivolous, you called me an embarrassment. So I built something real, something lasting, something that heals the earth and the people who thought healing was beneath them. The air crackled. My father finally looked away, unable to meet my eyes. My mother buried her face in her hands, tears streaming silently. My brother stood frozen, the weight of his own mockery suddenly crushing him. They faced the consequences of their derision, not in anger, but in the crushing, undeniable weight of their own words made manifest. They saw the barren lands I'd transformed, and they saw the reflection of their own failure to see the value in a dream they deemed ridiculous. I didn't offer forgiveness, I didn't demand it. I simply stood there, the architect of my own redemption, holding the proof of my journey. The laughter, the scorn, the belief in my inevitable failure, they were all reduced to ashes in the face of what I'd built. The karmic ledger had been settled not with vengeance, but with irrefutable transformative success. The bitter taste of their past derision was swallowed by the sweet, undeniable taste of a dream proven true, a legacy forged in the crucible of their disbelief. And as I looked at the faces of the family that had once rejected me, I knew with a profound, quiet certainty that I had finally, irrevocably come home, not to a house that had forgotten me, but to a truth they could no longer deny.